Hello, dear students. Today we shall discuss an important poetic form, that is the ode, in the section of literary terms prescribed for BA Part 1, English Literature, Paper 1, that is English Poetry and Drama by the University of Kota. In my earlier discussions, I had spoken about the sonnet as a form of poetry and the lyric as a form of poetry. If any of you have any doubts about these two forms of poetry, kindly watch my videos on the related forms which I have uploaded on the YouTube. Well, before we get into any further discussion about the ode, the structure of an ode, the kinds of odes, let us first find out what the definition of an ode is. Well, the ode is a lyric poem that praises an individual, an idea, or an event. Let me repeat it. The ode is a lyric poem that praises an individual, an idea, or an event. I would like to share a very interesting thing with you, and that is that just as the origin of most of Hindi literature and regional literatures can be traced to Sanskrit classics or the Sanskrit classical texts, similarly, English literature too has a strong element of Latin and Greek, that is Roman and Greek, as its original source. You might be wondering why I am telling you this. Well, I am telling you this because many English poetic forms like the sonnet, the elegy, or the lyric have their origin either in Latin or Greek sources. In the same way, the word ode also comes from the Greek word eidin, which means to sing or chant. Greek odes were originally accompanied by music. We have seen that in most poetic forms, for instance the lyric that we discussed, music is an important component of these poetic forms. So here again, it is interesting to know that the Greek odes, the ode as such, the literary form, it was accompanied by music. Getting further into the discussion, let us find out what the specific features of an ode are, with the help of which we can identify a particular piece of poem as an ode as distinct from other poetic forms like the sonnet or the lyric or the elegy for that matter. Well, the first important feature of an ode is that it is usually in the form of an address. By the form of an address, I mean in this the poet addresses directly to the person or object that the poet intends to speak about. If I put it in a simple sentence in Hindi, I would say कि इस कविता का प्रथम महत्वपूर्ण लक्षण यह है कि इसमें कवि संबोधन से यानी एड्रेस से अपनी बात शुरू करता है, और संबोधन उस व्यक्ति या वस्तु को करता है, संबोधित उस व्यक्ति या वस्तु को करता है जिनके बारे में वो आगे अपनी बात कहना चाहते हैं. The opening lines contain an apostrophe or appeal. The opening lines contain an apostrophe or appeal. For instance, a very popular example is that of Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, in which the poet begins by addressing the west wind directly. The poet begins by addressing the west wind directly as O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn's being. So, the first characteristic of an ode is that it is in the form of an address. Now, the next characteristic feature of an ode is that it is an elaborately structured poem praising or glorifying an event, an individual, an abstract idea, or the description of nature. Please remember, the ode is an elaborately structured poem praising or glorifying an event, an individual, an abstract idea, or the description of nature. The description is always intellectual as well as emotional. When I said that the ode is an elaborately structured poem praising or glorifying an event, I would love to give you the example from Andrew Marvell's ode by the name of Upon Cromwell's Return from Ireland. Now, Oliver Cromwell was a very popular English leader, and when he returned to England from Ireland, it was an important political event in English history, and so Andrew Marvell chose to compose an ode on this occasion. Again, let me repeat the second feature: an elaborately structured poem praising or glorifying an event or an individual. Now, when I say an individual, I would like to give you the example of Tennyson's Ode on the Death of the Duke of Wellington. Tennyson's Ode on the death of the Duke of Wellington, in which he pays a rich tribute to a distinguished personality as the Duke of Wellington. Similarly, when I say the ode is an elaborately structured poem praising, glorifying perhaps an event, an individual, an abstract idea, or nature, so here again we have a very fine example of Collins's Ode to the Evening, in which Collins praises the beauty of the evening time. The third important feature of an ode is that the ode describes an exalted or enthusiastic emotion. The ode describes an exalted or enthusiastic emotion, and which is done in a dignified style, which is of varying length of line and complexity of stanza, forms, and varied or irregular meter. You have to remember that this elaborately structured poem describes exalted or enthusiastic emotions in a dignified style, but it can have different lengths of line, it can have different complex stanza forms, and the meter can be of different types and perhaps even irregular. Well, that was the third feature. Now we come to the fourth feature, or the characteristic that distinguishes an ode from other poetic forms, and this is, it is often solemn and serious in its tone and subject matter. By solemn, I mean gambhir, and serious in its tone and subject matter. Now, I would like to tell you a little about how to identify the tone. The tone is the attitude of the writer towards the subject matter, which includes choice of words or the viewpoint of the author, which helps to determine whether the tone is formal, informal, serious, comic, sarcastic, sad, or cheerful. By that I mean, if you pay attention to some lines of an ode, and if you group the choice of words together you will be able to determine the attitude or the point of view of the author. So what I am trying to say is the choice of words or the diction of the particular of the lines of the ode determine the point of view or the attitude of the author towards his subject, and this in turn, the point of view in turn, determines the tone of the poem. So by reading a few lines, we can easily determine whether the tone is formal, informal, serious, comic, sarcastic, sad, or cheerful. Please pay attention to these small tips, and now when you come across any poem which is titled as an ode to something or somebody, try to identify these characteristics in the poems. So let me quickly wrap up in a capsule form the specific characteristics of an ode. The ode is an address or a sambodhan. It is elaborately structured poem which glorifies an event, an individual, an abstract idea or nature. It is exalted and enthusiastic in emotion, dignified in style. It is serious in tone and subject matter. Now, let us come to the structure of an ode. The structure of an ode, by that I mean, are there any different parts like the sonnet form in which an ode is divided? My students would know that just like the sonnet is of two kinds, the Petrarchan and the Elizabethan, and the Petrarchan sonnet has an octave and a sestet. Like the structure of the Petrarchan sonnet consists of an octave and a sestet, the structure of a Shakespearean sonnet consists of 3 quatrains and a concluding couplet. Similarly, the ode, not necessarily always but mostly, has a rough structure, which is that an ode is divided into 3 parts, triads. We call them triads, which is a synonym or which simply means the stanzas. The ode is divided into 3 stanzas or sections or triads. You can choose to call it whatever you want to. And beginning with the first part of an ode, the opening lines of an ode are called the strophe. The strophe. In a Greek ode, the strophe usually consists of 2 or more lines repeated as a unit. However, in English literature and the modern usage, the term strophe can refer to any group of verses that form a distinct unit within a poem. The strophe also represents the formal opening of the ode. You have to remember 2 or more lines repeated as a unit. It is also the formal opening of the ode, the first part, which is called the strophe. The second part or the second stanza or the second triad of an ode is the antistrophe. The second section of an ode is structured the same way as the strophe, but typically offers a counterbalance. This is the antistrophe, which means the idea that was brought forth in the first section or stanza or triad or strophe meets with a counterbalancing idea. The second section of an ode is known as the antistrophe, and the third section or the concluding section is the epode. The epode. This section or stanza typically has a distinct meter and length from the strophe and antistrophe and serves to summarize or conclude the ideas of the ode. It has a distinct meter and length from the strophe and antistrophe and serves to summarize or conclude the ideas of the ode. Now let us try to find out what are the different types of odes. To make you easily remember and understand the different types of odes, I have a small table with you which I would like to share with you. Well, here is the table that I was talking about. Just let us briefly recall that the lyric is a poetic form. The lyric is a poetic form which includes within it 4 other types of poetic forms, which are the song, the sonnet, the ode and the elegy. The song, the sonnet, the ode and the elegy. Well, our concern today is the ode. Now the ode, as we were talking about the different types of ode, the first type of ode is the Pindaric ode or the Dorian ode. The Pindaric or the Dorian ode. The second type of ode is the Lesbian or the Horatian ode. And the third type of ode is the irregular ode. Well, let us first come back to the Dorian or the Pindaric ode. Now, students of English Literature BA Part 1 would know that they have the 1-mark questions which they have to answer in a single sentence. So perhaps their first sentence would be, what are the 3 different types of odes? What are the 3 different types of odes? And your answer should be the Dorian or the Pindaric ode, the Lesbian or the Horatian ode, and the third type is the irregular ode. Or your 1-mark question may ask you, give another name for the Pindaric ode, and your answer would be another name for the Pindaric ode is the Dorian ode. Similarly, give another name for the Horatian ode, and your answer would be another name for the Horatian ode is the Lesbian ode. Now coming back to the Pindaric ode, I would like to give you some more information about the Pindaric ode. This ode was named after an ancient Greek poet named Pindar of the 5th century BC. He also has the credit of creating the ode as a poetic form. He wrote choral poems that were meant to celebrate public events like the Olympic Games. So, isn't it interesting, students, to know that the odes that Pindar composed were generally sung during the victory of young men in the Olympic Games. This kind of ode contains 3 triads. We have already spoken about the triads, which simply means 3 stanzas named as the strophe, the antistrophe and the epode. The strophe, the antistrophe and the epode. Pindaric odes usually have irregular rhyme patterns and length of lines. As has been said earlier, Pindar's odes were sung for young men who triumphed in the Greek Olympics. Now I would like you to understand what was the function of the strophe at that time. The function of the strophe during the time when the Greek odes were composed and sung by Pindar. The Greek chorus, I would like to give you another piece of information over here, and that is the Greeks were very fond of drama and theatre. So whenever a play was staged, the chorus had an important role to play. The chorus is a group of singers who walk across the stage giving information to the audience about the events that may have happened in the past or are about to happen in the future. So, the Greek chorus in the strophe would move in dance rhythm to the left of the stage, chanting the strophe or the formal opening of the ode. So, during a Greek, when a play was staged in the theatre, the strophe, the chorus singing the strophe would move to the left side of the stage, singing and dancing and opening the situation of the ode. In the antistrophe, the chorus would move chanting and singing on the right side of the stage. It would move on the right side of the stage. And finally, after moving to the right side of the stage, the chorus would come back to the center of the stage, would stand still, and this was the stage of the epode, or singing or summing of the ode took place. The strophe and the antistrophe is written in one kind of stanza, while the epode is written in another kind of stanza. A classic example of So, as I told you, the epode, the singing of the epode signified the singing or the conclusion or the summing up of the ode. A classic example of a Pindaric form of ode in English literature is that of William Wordsworth's Ode on Intimations of Immortality. Now, if you are interested, kindly pick up this ode, go through it, and you will be able to identify the strophe, the antistrophe, and the epode stages of the ode in this beautiful ode by William Wordsworth. Let us talk now a little about the Horatian or the Lesbian ode. The name of this ode was taken from the Latin poet Horace of the 1st century BC. The word Horatian ode has been taken from the creator of this ode, that is the Latin poet Horace of 1st century BC. Now, he broke away from the structure of the Pindaric ode, that is the form of the strophe, the antistrophe, and the epode form of the Pindaric ode, and his odes, that is the Horatian odes, are usually informal, personal, meditative, and intimate pieces of poems. The subject matter of the Horatian odes are usually simple and pleasing to the senses. The stanzas of the Horatian odes are written in quatrains. And since Horatian odes are informal in tone, the poets do not follow any strict rules. See, this is what you need to remember, that the Horatian odes are informal in tone and the poets do not follow any strict rules. By that I mean that they are homostrophic. The Horatian ode has no strict rules, and the term that we can use for such an ode is the homostrophic ode, and they are written in single repeated stanza form with 4-line quatrains. You all know easily what a quatrain is. A quatrain is a stanza of 4 lines. That is, it is written in a single repeated stanza form. The theme of the Horatian odes are often intimate reflections on friendship, love, or poetry itself. If anybody were to ask you what are the possible themes of a Horatian ode, your answer should be that they are intimate reflections on friendship, on love, and on poetry itself. The popular examples of Horatian odes in English literature are that of the odes of John Keats, the Ode to Autumn, the Grecian Urn, the Ode to a Nightingale, etc. Now let us come to the third form of the ode, which is the irregular ode. This type of ode is without any formal rhyme scheme and structure like the Pindaric ode. Hence, the poet has great freedom and flexibility to try any types of concepts and moods. Irregular odes typically include rhyme as well as irregular verse structure and stanza patterns. Examples of irregular ode in English literature is that of Abraham Cowley. A popular example is also that of the Ode to West Wind by Shelley. The irregular ode does not employ the 3-stanza form like the Pindaric ode or the 4-line quatrain stanza form like the Horatian ode. In fact, sometimes each stanza of a poem is distinct from the other stanzas in rhyme scheme, pattern, or length. We have today learnt about the different types of odes and the structure of the odes. The different types of odes are the Pindaric or the Dorian ode, the Horatian or the Lesbian ode, and the irregular ode. And roughly the structure of an ode is divided into the triad form, that is 3 stanzas. The first stanza is called the strophe, the second stanza is called the antistrophe, and the concluding stanza is called the epode. I tried to show you in the form of a table the different intricacies of the Horatian, the Pindaric, as well as the irregular ode. Now, how did the English poets use these odes? The odes of the English poets were used particularly by the Romantic poets. What I'm trying to say is that the Romantic poets had a particular fondness for the form of ode writing, or writing poems in the form of an ode, and they did not basically follow too many rules in writing the odes, and they often used the odes as an address to an intense emotion at the onset of a personal crisis. So, when they were facing some emotional turmoil or some tragedy or some trauma in life, that was the time when they employed the ode as a form of self-expression. Let us quickly wind up the ode, the different features of an ode or the form of an ode as a form of poetry. Ode is a form of lyrical poetry in which poets use a certain metrical pattern and rhyme scheme to express noble and lofty sentiments in a serious philosophic tone. They are reflective or contemplative pieces of poetry and have a universal appeal. The style is sublime and grand. Poets use the ode as a poetic form to explore important themes and observations related to human relations, emotions, and senses. I hope, dear students, you would have gathered important information relating to the ode as a form of poetry. Until then, see you for the next discussion of another literary form in my next video. Thank you.